Try again.
Okay, it is 6 p.m. on January 8th, 2024. We're calling the Beecher Board of Education meeting to order, noting all members present. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the policy committee meeting minutes of December 11th, 2023, and the regular board meeting and truth and taxation hearing meeting minutes of December 11th, 2023 as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Missouri?
Yes.
Glickling?
Yes.
Diachenko?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the executive session regular board meeting minutes of December 11th, 2023 as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Flores?
Yes.
Missouri?
Yes.
Glickling?
Yes.
Diachenko?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Belt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the January 2024 expenses as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Missouri?
Yes.
Glickling?
Yes.
Diachenko?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Belt?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And next up is the treasurer's report.
You can do the bills or the treasurer's
Appeal.
report. That's fine. So the balance in the Supernar account on December 31st, the first community was $3,524,461.35. Outstanding checks totaled $32,170.91. December payroll expense carryover was $42,355.18, leaving the adjusted bank balance of $3,449,935.26. Lunch program had a balance of $64,508.82. Impress fund, $5,000. And the total balance at $3,519,444.08. Investment funds totaled $5,260,341.29, leaving the balance of all funds as of 12/31 at $8,779,785.37. December receipts totaled $623,327.80. Expenses were $1,169,997.35. Education fund balance, $5,983,671.72. Building fund, $517,132.37. Transportation fund, $913,626.34. IMRF, $194,277.74. Working cash balance, $267,426.45. Tort fund balance, $324,002.25. And life safety, $579,648.50. December interest was $14,962.73. And we had quite a few from deposits from the state. The normal state aid of $314,122 even. School lunch, $13,793.67. State free lunch, $90.08. Preschool flow through, $303 even. Special milk, that is correct, 37 cents. Driver education, $2340.91. Title I, $18,800. Title IV, $11,385. ESSER IDEA flow through, $21,789. IDEA flow through, $30,221. ESSER 3, $33,810, and ESSER IDEA preschool, $3,032 even. And then we had the 10th distribution for the real estate taxes of $103,840.38. Fund balances are in the packet.
Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. I need a motion to approve the December 2023 Treasurers Report as presented.
So moved.
Second. Flickling,
Yes.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Belt,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri. Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, for recognition, this evening we have the 8th grade girls basketball team. Do we have a coach that wants to speak of their highlights, or Dr. Crosby?
I'm Coach Heiss. I was the head coach of the basketball team, the 8th grade team, and this is my assistant coach, my dad, Coach out here. I've been with these girls for 2 to 3 years now, and it's honestly been a blast, like, coaching them. Got to learn their tendencies, got to learn when they're angry, got to learn when they're upset, got to learn them as humans off the court, which is really cool because normally I can only see them like one-on-one in basketball form, but a lot of them trusted me to kind of talk to me on the side too, so that was really nice. And I'm very excited for you guys, for your future in high school. Are you guys excited? They're like, not really. Yeah.
I got to tag along this year as the assistant coach, the 7th grade girls coach also. When the opening came, I was more than happy to accept it when it was offered. Hopefully we're building a tradition that'll be longstanding and continue to keep moving on forward from this. So.
And then I'll recognize all the girls. So in the front, I have Allie Johnson, Caitlin O'Neill, Grace Wiest, Kaylee Kopak, Gianna Bommel, Kaylee Zelhart, Addison Kurkowski, and then our manager, Uni Garcia.
What was your overall record? Did you mention
I
that?
think we were,
18-6.
18 is
yeah.
They ended 18-6.
fantastic.
Beecher's only been to the state tournament 3 times in their history, 2 times by these girls.
Yeah.
Wow.
A little bit of the background on the shirt, that's why they have the setting the bar on the back and making history are both of those are there for that reason, because you can't do any better than going down stage twice. And they set the bar for every team from this day forward, so you guys will be the example for every team we coach from this day forward.
Do you want to give them a chance to go now or wait?
I am always a strong proponent of allowing people to both enjoy the history lesson, but also enjoy the outside air. So,
Senior government at work. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay, but if you want to go, we won't take offense to
Ms. Belt, would you like me to recognize this after this event's done, or at the end of the meeting? It's up to you.
You want to talk, it's up to you, whenever you want
Do
to.
it at the end of the meeting. I'm just going to stay here for you.
Okay. I have one public comment from Miss Brennan Stahl.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Looking very dapper, Dr. Yahan.
I appreciate that. It's a new shirt. I forgot it.
I just wanted to, I guess, kind of say my comment on the, I don't know what the number is, but it's the library policy that you were talking about, the policy meeting with the $700 grant that comes with it. And as a parent and a community member, that really bothers me that we are going to give up that control to, and it's not even necessarily the person, because I trust all of our people that work in our buildings. I have had nothing but great interactions and can say nothing but positive things at the elementary school that my kids are at, so it has nothing to do with that. It's the precedent that you're setting by taking that power away from our school board. So you trust your administration where you teach, you all trust where you're at, but that's not to say things aren't going to change. And the community trusts all of you to speak for us and to do what's right for our kids. So why would you give up that control to someone that yes, now is fine, but who knows down the line? And I feel like it's a slippery slope, because what else then are you okay with giving up control of? Oh, okay, we'll let this because there's a grant. And I'm sorry, but $700 is nothing. Before I came to the meeting, I reached out to several families. They'll all throw in money. I'll have $700 for a grant for you to buy books on Friday if you want. This is not the decision that you want to make for our school district. I understand that we want the money and it's an easy way, but then you can't ban any book. And I'm not saying there's even one. A lot of you said, well, it was never been a problem before. You are correct. But there's a lot of stuff, as we know, the last few years that have not been a problem before that's a problem now. And do you want to be handcuffed to that and not be able to make that decision for our community as community members that were elected because we trusted you to do what's best for our district? The state doesn't know Beecher. Who knows the person that in the future you're hiring, where they come from? They might be great and it might be fine, but it might not be. So why are we going to put something in place and then say, well, we can roll it back. Well, we can change the policy if we need to. Why even start that process? It's $700. If it was $7 million, if it was $7,000, okay, you know what? I get it. I don't like it. I still don't think it's right, but I could understand the discussion. For $700, you know what? I bet that's a cup of coffee for some of people. We could put that cup of coffee every day and have it $700 in a few months. Like I said, I got $700 for you on Friday. This is not the way to raise money to take the power away from us. Thank you.
You need to clarify that you can indeed.
During the press meeting, I will clarify my incorrect
Okay,
statement to the
okay,
board
okay.
and the clarification the error that I made.
Okay, so next up are your presentations. We start with Ms. Black.
Good evening, everyone. Hello.
He's not prepared.
Joe Duncan. Hey, see, I just gotta say your name.
I don't know where to stand so I can see everything, so sorry I can stand behind you guys. All right, my annual report on our test scores. Just to make everyone aware, we take the IAR test, 3rd grade through 5th grade on Chromebooks, and we take the Illinois Science Assessment. 5th graders take that on Chromebooks as well. So here is our data over the last 3 years. We have some data from before COVID, but I chose to kind of take those years from COVID forward. And you can see we have steadily increased our science assessment scores, as well as the state's average. If you can see, the state average was 43%, 51%, and now it's at 52%. And each year we've gone up 30, 44, and 67. I see some of you writing this down. I can certainly share this presentation with you guys, so you don't have to try to take notes while
And we'll also put it on the webpage as well for our community members who, if they can't read it through Joe's, can zoom it in.
Better really make sure to read through it again, make sure there's no grammar mistakes. So, our science assessment is always good, so let's start off that way. Here I have our IAR scores over the last 3 years, and the state average is the black bar on that line graph, and our Beecher, the elementary school, I should say, average is in that orange bar graph. So looking at ELA, the year right after COVID, our average was 34%, the state average was 30%. In 22, our average was 27, the state average was 30, and in 23, our average was 34, and the state average was 35. So certainly, within a few points, with all of those, there's not any huge discrepancies with ELA. Looking at math looks a little bit different. In our year right after COVID, the state average was 25%, our average was 17. In 22, The state average was 25, ours was 19, and last year the state average was 23, and we were at 20. So we are making, little increases, certainly not where we would like to be, but the numbers for us are moving at least in a positive direction. Here I broke scores down so you can see the differences between 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So IAR considers 4 and 5 as meeting standards and exceeding standards. So one of the things that you'll notice, and I talk about a little bit later, is that with our numbers, we have a lot of students that are in that 3 area that are really close to meeting those standards. We have a good amount of students in the 4 also who are meeting standards. We don't have a lot of students in that 5, and that's something that we are focusing on a little bit as a staff. Also, when we look at some of our numbers over the years, we've done a pretty good job of moving some of our lower students, so moving some of those 1s to 2s, some 2s to 3s, so there might not be a whole lot of movement in that 4 and 5, but when you look at it historically, again, the 1s and 2s and 2s and 3s, we've done a good job there. We have spent some time this year and will continue to spend some time on pushing those students that are on the bubble, those 3s that are close to 4 and those 4s that could be doing a little bit better. Not the 4s bad, but those students that we know could be hitting that 5 range. So while you look at these scores, and with the next couple of slides, this is 3rd grade scores, but these are our current 4th graders, because these are last year's scores, so here's where they scored. 4th grade, again, these are our current 5th graders, and ELA is on the left, math is on the right. Again, you'll see we know math is definitely an area that we need to focus on. But when you look at that 3 area, again, those kids that were really close, we had 47% of our students that were, close to hitting that 4 mark. So something that we've definitely identified as an area, and part of what we're doing during WIN, and also part of what we're doing as a staff, looking at those standards and looking at them a little bit more specifically to see historically what standards are always a little bit lower and addressing those specifically. 5th grade, these are our current 6th graders. Again, if you look at that 3 both years, if you look at those students that are in the 3, we have quite a few of those students. We're looking at how to get those 3s up to 4. Here is, we always compare to area schools. The first 2 bars are the state average and our average, and then the other 3, I just put them in order. So again, this is ELA, and while, I even think a state average of 35%, that doesn't sound really great. In general, you would think the state average would be better. So the fact that we're, a point below, again, 34 doesn't sound great, but when you look at, the other schools in our area, we're really not far off from where everyone is performing in that ELA area. Math, again, we know is an area of struggle. That first bar is the state average, then ours, and again, the same schools, just kind of in order. There are 3 schools that are much higher, as you can see there, and then the rest of us, there are a couple right near us, and then a few that are lower, BDS and math. So obviously we can't change the data, so here's what we're doing to improve that. Overall, we definitely started looking at IAR data much earlier than we had in the past. We looked at IAR data, I believe, at our September staff meeting, September or October. We were looking at that right away. And I actually gave teachers data to look at before we even had our whole meeting, our first meeting together on that, so that they could start sifting through and looking at that. We also dug deeper into the results more than we had before. As I stated, we looked at historically lower, since COVID, historically lower standards where we're always performing a little bit lower. So because we do have a small sample set with only 3 homerooms, sometimes just looking at 1 year at a time, it's really hard to get good data because those students themselves could be so different, only having 70 to 80 students. But looking at that historically, it really allowed us to see if there are certain standards that are coming up over the past 3 years that are always lower. We know that's something that we need to focus on. So we spent quite a bit of time looking at that with our teams. We've also looked at and addressed our assessments themselves. So upping the rigor of our assessments to more match with the kinds of questions that they're going to be seeing on the IAR assessment. We also, as a staff, looked at some of those maybe not explicit instruction areas, but areas that are going to help our students perform better on the test. So that's talking about testing stamina, so taking tests that are longer, like this test is, when, especially when we talk about our third graders, if this is the first time they've ever sat down and took a 75-minute test, that's going to be hard. So we've looked at testing stamina with all of our grade levels across the board. We've also looked at typing practice. We were finding that a lot of our students with their writing scores, it wasn't matching what we were seeing when they were writing in the classroom, because some of them weren't good at typing, and it was labor intensive for them. So instead of writing, 3 paragraphs that they would write in their classroom, they would write 4 sentences on IAR because they didn't want to, it was labor intensive for them to type. So that's definitely something that we've incorporated already with our students, and we'll continue to do that. And then the last thing is explicit teaching of test-taking strategies. It was one of the things that we talked about as a staff, that sometimes we all, the teachers talk about that at the beginning of the year, the first couple of times they take a test, but really focus on that throughout the year about what we do to be good test takers. So those are some of those non-instructional things that we're doing that will hopefully help. 4 staff members and I attended an IAR workshop, so that was the first that we had heard of this. So the state presented a workshop where they broke down all of the reports that we see, all of the standards, how to read them better, how to take that data and use it, like what we've been doing. So after we went to that, not only did we present to the staff, but then those other staff members and myself, we kind of formed a committee. We've met quite a few times about what we can do, how we can address this, and make it small pieces. We're not, we don't want any staff members to get overwhelmed. We have a lot of growth that we would like to make, and we're not going to be able to change it all at once. So spend a lot of time talking about having those discussions. At the workshop, it was really interesting. We always think about 3-5. At that workshop, the presenter showed us where on ISB's website we can find almost like a precursor for K1 and 2. So in order for them to be ready in 3rd grade, here's what should be happening in 2nd grade, here's what should be happening in 1st grade, here's what should be happening in kindergarten. And I know it sounds silly because we have standards for that, but the standards, there's like a gazillion of them. There's a much more teacher-friendly, almost, that we could use as a checklist. Like, are we doing this in kindergarten? Yes. Are we doing this in 1st grade? Are we doing this? So having that document and sharing that with our primary teachers is also very helpful to hopefully get the future 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders ready, and there's not such a huge jump that they feel like happens in 3rd grade for testing. And one of the things also we talked about at SLT, spreading testing out over 2 weeks. So instead of taking 1 test a day or even 2 tests a day in the morning and in the afternoon, testing, 2 tests, give them a weekend, and then come back and test again the 2nd week. So we're going to try that. We've tried breaking up the tests in a whole bunch of different ways, and this is the way we're going to try it. And hopefully maybe that will help with the test fatigue. Instead of testing 4 days in a row, they test 2 days, have a break, have a weekend, come back and continue the tests. When specifically this year, we have been able to utilize Mrs. Reel, who's a half-time teacher for us, and Mrs. McKayza to help out with kindergarten to really create some of those high groups. So like I spoke about before, taking those students that we want to push up into the 5. Mrs. Reel and Mrs. McKayza have been able to help us provide those higher groups for those students. And again, meeting with SLT and grade levels often, talking about win time, how we can make the most of this, what changes they would like to see, how can I get more help to them if they want to try a different group, need another person. So we meet and talk about that win time a lot. For ELA, over the summer we created a writing committee, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade specifically worked on common language, rubrics, expectations, and like vocabulary to use, so that when we're teaching how to write paragraphs in 3rd grade, what was happening before is that the 3rd grade teachers would have their way and their if it's a topic sentence, if it's an attention getter, if whatever word they're using, then you go to fourth grade and maybe they're calling it a main idea sentence instead of an attention getter or a topic sentence. So we spent a lot of time kind of getting all of that on the same page so you don't feel like you're having to teach the kids new vocabulary each year when you're doing that. And our writing committee will be meeting again in the second semester to address that again. We've looked at rubrics. They made a really great plan for the first semester and how they wanted to do that. We were also able, with our schedule, to add specific writing time in the fourth grade. Before it was blended into ELA, our ELA block, and knowing that there was this need, we were able to create a 30-minute block in both of those grade levels to have just writing specific time. For math, obviously we're looking into a new series. We have 3 different series that we're looking at. You know, having data from other districts around us is really helpful too when we look at and talk about, okay, you know, what series are they using, what kind of success are they seeing. We have a group, again, who are looking over those materials. We have the 3 different series that we have right now that we're looking at before we make a decision as to which one we want to go with. And we have also continued to work on that math fact fluency, especially in the older grade levels, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. If they don't know their facts, you start to get in that higher level math and it becomes really difficult for them to be able to work on long division when it's taking over half the time to figure out exactly how many times 6 goes into, you know, whatever, 43. So that's our plan. That's what we're working on right now.
Do we have keyboarding classes, specific classes?
Well, it's part of computers. They go to computers once a week, and I know it's every time they go to computer class, depending on what they're working on, there is time allotted to learning how to type, the specific typing programs that are there.
And how does the, for the ELA, non-native speaking parents or family, how is that affecting those grades?
Well, we have our EL teacher. We have Mrs. Sparza, who meets with those students, so she sees those students during their win time, and depending on the grade level and where they're at, she, usually the older grade level, she takes a little bit more input from the classroom teacher to see where those students are specifically struggling. She's also done a really good job with some of our grade levels, again, especially the older ones. There starts to be a little bit more of a gap of needs to where she'll have 2, it might be, you know, 4th grade EL students, but she'll have 2 different groups that are working, you know, this group is working on, you know, maybe something a little bit simpler, while this group she might be just helping proofread and edit their writing. And so she's done a good job, I think, of kind of differentiating those groups as well.
This might be a ridiculous question, but like especially for the younger kid, like the 3rd graders, when they're testing, is it possible to like, I don't know, have somebody that can help them, like can type for them or help them type, just because?
Unfortunately.
Unless they have an IEP. You can't even take breaks, you can't, it's a timed, you have a thing to read on a prompt.
I don't, like
yeah.
my 2nd grader obviously will be taking this test, and I need your no ways.
It's rough, it is so rough, like I can't even explain how rough it is on those 3rd
I feel
graders.
like those scores aren't.
And the other, I mean, the
fair at all.
other thing that I think really working on that testing stamina piece, I don't want to say every student has enough time, but in my observation, and really I'm observing, I do a lot of the makeups, so I'm not, you know, obviously proctoring to the whole class, I do a lot of the makeups after. It is very, very rare that I see a student who doesn't have enough time to do the test. It's more that, like I said, that stamina of them kind of getting worn down. Oh, I went through
Just
passages
clicking
and that
through.
part of it, so
Yeah.
hopefully once we work on that stamina and that typing practice, maybe, you know, it's not the first
Yeah.
time we're trying to
Yeah.
type their whole
Right.
response.
They do, I know that my 3rd grader, she'll take regular tests on the computer to practice for that. And they've spent a lot of time teaching them how to do the test, how to read the questions and how to answer the
How to break
directions.
them apart,
Yeah.
how to, yeah.
And then even just like the physical, how to use the program, because they were getting a lot of them wrong and they realized the kids didn't know how to do the drop downs. They didn't know how to click. And so the teachers are teaching them how it physically works,
Mhm.
because they may know the answers, and they just don't know how to put it in the
And
program.
farther in advance, because I think, I mean, our teachers were always doing those things, you know, for sure, they were always, you know, they weren't setting them into the test not having practice.
But now they're all digital.
But, right, well, but before we were doing it just, you know, a couple of weeks before leading up to the
Mhm.
test, to where now we're doing it, you know,
September, she was doing
months
it.
before, right, we're doing it, you know, making it part of how they test. Okay. Thank you. I'll just stand here now.
So you guys have kind of alluded to what I've said for 6 years now. The 3 years as principal, I didn't make the newspaper, the last 2 I have, and I'm assuming our wonderful folks at the Vedette will probably quote me again on this. This is a snapshot of one day of a kid's life, and you've now seen additional reasons why a one-day snapshot of a child isn't fair to the kid. Take the school out of it. It's not fair to the kid. It's not fair to tell a kid, 30% of you are good enough. And my assessment as an educator, and I've done it for a year or two, if your state assessment is 35% expectation being passed, I have problems. If we would have come out here and you would have told me 75% of the state is passing this test because the standards are there and we understand, we have these data points, we can see the growth, or however you want to convey that, and Beecher was at 35%, I think it's a very different conversation. But a snapshot where the state itself is at 35, 36, 20%. I know I'm not allowed, I shouldn't say I don't put a lot of credence into a state assessment. We take it, we take the data, we use the data, we make sure our school is a little better next year, but I'm sorry, I will not be the superintendent that hangs their hat on a state assessment. I'll report it to you, I'll be very blunt with you guys, which is my problem, I think. But I can tell you how to make these better. You take out science, you take out social studies, and you do half-day reading, half-day math, and you move on with your lives. That's how you make these tests better. If you want to see better math scores, I tell Ms. Black next year, and I tell Dr. Kwasny next year, you don't teach social studies, you don't teach science, you teach math and English, and move on with our lives. I will not do that. I can't do that, because there's more important things than a one-day assessment. However, I appreciate that all 3 of them, and the other 2 will also convey to you guys, they are looking at this data, they are using it to try to figure out how to make it better for Beecher kids. So, that is my 2 cents regarding testing.
Well, nothing's more infuriating when you teach everything and then the kid just clicks through. And you just sit there and you watch and they're done in 10 minutes and you're like, oh!
And
So,
you're not allowed to say.
yeah.
Yep.
No, you're not allowed to say anything,
Yep.
you just have to sit there and you're
I
like,
want to go back and read that again.
yeah.
And Ms. Flicky, you pointed it out, I mean, you can't type for them, you can't, I mean, we've even, if I could sit next to a kid, and he could tell me everything he wants to write, me to write, and he probably might have a 3 or a 4 or even a 5, but he can't take it from there to put it there. That's, to me, that's not a lack of knowledge, that's
Yeah.
a communication device. Sorry, Dr. Kwasny.
And just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, we were talking about the scores. We have our monthly principals meetings with the area principals at the junior high level, and we were talking about just that. What are we doing, you know, what are schools doing that are increasing, and they're doing double class, they're doing a lab, so they're doubling up on their reading and on their math, but what happens? They have no time to teach the other subjects, so that's, you know, unfortunate, but that's what a lot of schools are doing, or some schools are doing. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Here, we're gonna start with the Illinois Science Assessment for our 8th graders, and these will be our current freshmen. And as you can see, our scores are above the state average. We did drop a little bit from last year, but we are still over 20% from 2021. So our science scores are always very high. We're in orange, and the state average is in the black. So we're at 59 this past year, and the state average was 52. And now we will go on to our reading and math scores. So, starting with reading, our ELA, again, we're always in the orange, and the state average is in the black. We are down slightly from last year, or I'm sorry, from 2021, we are down, but we're about where we were from last year. So, comparing from last year was 31, this year we're at 30%. So we're about the same. You'll see the same trend in math in terms of where we were from this year to last year. We were at 18 last year, we're at 16 this year. So again, or this past year, so again, we're at a similar point as last year, but we are up from 2 years ago where we were at 11. So that is a positive, but again, not where we want to be. And here's the breakdown. We'll start with 6th grade. And looking at our ELA scores, we have, even though we're at about the same percent of proficiency, rate of proficiency, which would be the 5s and the 4s, which would be the exceeding and then the meeting, we're at about the same point, but the positive with those scores are the 3s. We have a lot more students in the 3s, which means that they are approaching where they need to be, and we have less students in the 1% range, which is not meeting at all. So those are some positives to share for ELA in 6th grade. And then similar to that would be for our math scores. From this past year, we have a significantly less students in the 1 range, which is the do not meet. Before it was 21% did not meet, and now it's only 9%. So while we're, again, you know, about even with the proficiency rate, at least we're showing growth and our students are moving forward. 7th grade. 7th grade, we have some positives to share as well. And this is in terms of the proficiency, so the 4s and 5s. So again, those students are moving up. So we have, from this past year, we had, or I'm sorry, the year before, we had 16% of our students were in the 4 and 5 range. And now we're at 29%. So again, a lot of our students are moving up to that 4 and 5 proficiency range, which is great. In math, for 7th grade, we were at 13% of our students 2 years ago, and now it's up to 18% are proficient. So again, those trends are positive for 7th grade as well, and in terms of the proficiency rate in the 4s and 5s. And we do again have less students in both reading and math who are in the 1s and 2s. So again, we're moving students out of those lower ranges and into the 4s and 5s. 8th grade is next. 8th grade, we didn't have as much success. We scored at about, equal to where we were last year, if not a little bit lower. We do have a lot of students. These are our current freshmen. We had a lot of students who had, who are EL students, and they did have lower scores, as did other students as well for ELA and math. So not as many positives with 8th grade from this past year for our current freshmen. Here's our ELA comparison for the area schools. You'll see the state average is at 35, and then we're right next door for 30%, and then you can see we have, we're about in the middle with some schools that are outperforming us, but we are outperforming some other schools, so we're about in the average range for ELA at 30% proficiency. Moving on to math, you will find the math scores, generally speaking, are all much lower. The state average is only at 27%. We're next door at only 16%. Again, we're right about in the middle when you compare our scores, and none of the scores are where they need to be or where we would like them to be. So that's been our main area of focus is math, along with everyone else. Okay, so what are we going to try to do about it? Well, there are a lot of things that we do every year. And there are some things that we implemented this year, so we really won't see the benefits until we get the scores once the students take the test this year. But just to share some of them, what we always do, department teams analyze the data to identify the areas of strengths and the areas of growth. We do that every year. Where are we doing well? What are we doing really well, and where do we need to work to improve? So that's something we always do. We do it with our grade levels, and then we do it with our content areas as well. For us, for example, we were looking at the data from this past year. Main idea, writing, and that's in ELA, and that's also in math. Using the text evidence. So those, and then different math skills as well. There's a lot of math skills that we need to work on. So those were our targeted areas that we looked at from this past year. Another thing that we are trying this year is we're doing IXL challenges. IXL is the program that we use. And we had a main idea challenge, and then now we are doing a math challenge. And that's just something to incentivize the students, because sometimes we don't always have the effort from everyone. And so if we give some prizes, and we're giving out food and candy and, all the things. We're trying to get them to be excited about it. And what's nice about the IXL challenges is they get to work within their webs. So, the students, you don't have to feel like you have to score. We want everybody to be successful at their own level. You don't have to all be, at the top, or students, we want everybody to be successful based on where you are. Because again, if you're a student who's maybe at a do not meet, if you get the, partially met or you're approaching, that's a success. You don't have to be a student who has to be, exceeding. We want everyone to improve based on where they currently are. So those are some of the things with the IXL challenges that we're doing both in ELA as well as math. Tier 3 support. So Tier 3 students are students who struggle, but they do not have IEPs. So they were getting, a few years ago, they weren't really getting any supports. Then they were getting this, 2 years ago, 2 days of supports. This year, they received 5 days of supports. So we are really hoping that that's going to, we're going to see changes in a positive way based on our scores from this year, because they're meeting in small groups for 5 days a week. That was another thing. We were having like a whole class, not a whole class, but maybe 15 kids in a classroom. That's hard for one teacher to help all those students. So now we've reduced it. You don't want to reduce it, but it's better to have the small groups. So that's another thing that we've been doing, is meeting with the students more frequently, but with a smaller number of students. Also, Tier 2 services, those are students who are struggling a little bit. Those students are being serviced within the classroom in each of their classes at least one time a week. So that means the teachers are pulling them to the back table or just working with them in a small group if they're struggling with doing different reteaching strategies. And again, that's something that started this year, so we're hoping that we see those positive impacts this year. Cross-curricular instruction, this is always something that we try to push, incorporating ELA across the different content areas. So that means in health, they're doing some writing. They're doing, writing in all of their classes. In science class, how are they using their math skills and things like that. So we're trying to get that cross-area content. Also for social studies, of course, you can do a lot of writing in there as well. Keyboarding is the last overall strategy improvement across the board. We used to have keyboarding in 8th grade, and now we've moved it to 6th grade. That's for this year. 8th grade, it was kind of too late. I mean, I know they're learning keyboarding in elementary school. They were learning it in 6th and 7th, but to start it in 8th grade, as we've talked about, there's so much, they're used to kind of, they know where the keys are, they're used to kind of like texting when they're typing, but not using a formal keyboard. So we're hoping that positively impacts their scores too, with having keyboarding in 6th grade. Okay, and now specifically for ELA. So we are increasing our focus on writing, and that is for math too, and modeling. There's more modeling, whereas I think before it was more of, okay, let's do an extended response, let's do an extended response, but you're almost missing the kids who don't know how to. So I think there's more modeling, and then more of, okay, I do, we do, now you do. And so we're trying to incorporate that, as well as using that text evidence, making the connections to help them with their writing. Using more short stories and articles that target our specific areas of growth. More IAR prep. They have some, we were pulling different resources for a while. There were the same state practice tests online. So now we're looking at other resources that teachers have been pulling, so that's been nice. And then following up with IXL to kind of connect that for maybe an additional assignment or for homework to reinforce the skills that they were learning. And then Wordly Wise workbooks have been helping, because before everything was online, and now for our 6th graders, SPED, select EL students, and then other students who would have, would benefit from the workbook, it's just kind of hard to navigate with the online program, so that has helped as well. One last thing I wanted to mention for the ELA section is we have more contact time with our EL students, with the teacher, our EL teacher. He is now, this was something new that we tried this year, he now co-teaches with the reading teacher. So that's a model that we've tried. Now there is some pull-out where, okay, he helps the students outside of the class in a small group setting, but the co-teaching has really been valuable too, and he's also been helping the students during study hall. So he's in there for one class 6th grade, one 7th, and one 8th grade. So we're hoping that and especially for our students who have very limited English, that's been, we can already tell based on the other data that we've looked at that is working. Math. So specific to math, again, looking at extended responses and IAR prep, and a targeted problem of the day. Oh, I skipped. The math team just went to an IAR workshop. So that was right before break. And they came back with a better understanding of just looking over the data and looking at how we can use that to drive our instruction better, and that is with the different extended responses, how to teach them a little bit better, even just the showing them how to explain the frequency that you should be teaching, the amount of questions that, there are a lot of questions that ask, check all that apply. Well, if you don't get all that apply, you don't get any points. So that's another thing, like incorporate more of those questions that reflect the test and finding resources that allow you to do that, because that doesn't necessarily align to our math curriculum, so we have to find the resources that do. And they gave and suggested some resources for us, which was helpful. Also, we have restructured some of our math classes a bit. That's kind of more in the special education department, but making sure that our students are in different groups, that they're more, that we're able to differentiate with our schedule this year. So that's been helpful. So the students who they can kind of move through the material a little bit more quickly are together, and then the students we need to slow down for are together as well, so we can meet the needs of all the individual students. And what's really, really important for us right now is to make sure we do our due diligence when it comes to our math curriculum adoption. So we've been talking with the other schools, not just in our Can-Will group, but also with all the math team and the people that they know and that they network with, to make sure we make the right choice. We've had some mixed reviews with some of the different programs, but we've been on Ed Reports, and we've had some reps come in, we've had a lot of samples come in, so that's something that we're going to really spend a lot of time to make sure that, and have been, to make sure that we make the right choice for our math curriculum. Not that that's the end-all be-all to pick the math series, but it's certainly a valuable tool for us to use and resource. Did anyone have any questions?
Just what you just said, I was kind of thinking about that, because I think Ms. Black touched on it too. So you guys are kind of looking at different curriculum opportunities that maybe, because I was wondering, is there only a set curriculum you can use, only a set, type of books or whatever, or can you kind of shop around?
Yeah, we can definitely shop around, and not a lot of schools, but some schools kind of piecemeal some things together. Some have found that that's, they like having just one program that they use. So it kind of depends on the schools, but we're definitely shopping around and seeing what would work the best for our students. And some of them look really great, but they're maybe too challenging. And some of them, the feedback is one lesson will take several days. So then how quickly can we really move through? There are a lot of different components to think about and what would work for our students. So we're trying to do our best to make sure we make a good choice and something that everybody feels comfortable with from gen ed to SPED as well.
And these would be kind of comparative to what they kind of need to start learning and knowing for these tests. That will help them.
Right. Yeah, and then there's additional IAR prep materials out there that we've been using, so we don't want to, we want to still incorporate those too, but hopefully we'll find a math program, a math curriculum that really meets our needs, because we don't want to be having on the, a math series that's okay and then having the pull and piecemeal. We want to have something that's relatively strong, and then we can just supplement a bit, especially because it's really expensive. The math programs are all very expensive.
I can only imagine.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You're fine.
Discipline, 10 in-school suspensions. Was that, I'm hoping several students, but is that unusual, or was this a holiday jitters, or?
That was, let me grab that.
I know, I saw that too. I was like, oh, something to do going in December.
Were they out of school? Gosh.
In school.
In school.
Oh, the in-school.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh, I don't even, the in-school ones were tardies, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I think actually every single one, if not, and I'm sorry, normally I always print that out, but since we didn't do our regular board reports, I didn't print it. But you get 3, after 3 tardies on your 4th one, you get a consequence. So they go from lunch detention to detention, and then
In school.
in school. So a lot of the students hit that 12 mark. by the end, and then they restart. So a lot of tardies, and it's every class, so it's not just at the beginning of the day. So a lot of the students and they do still get to turn in their work for full credit, but that's what a lot of them were, well, actually all of them for. Did it say 10 in there? I know at least 9 out of 10, there maybe was one other one, but mostly all tardies.
Okay, yeah, it was 10 in school, 1 out.
Okay, yeah, but they were all tardies, unfortunately.
Okay.
I was just
Or
gonna.
fortunately, I mean, at least they're.
Yeah.
I was just gonna hit on that cross-curricular, I know with science, being a science teacher, the next generation science standards are very heavy reading and math. So if we're following those next generation science standards, like math and for the past 9 years, I think the NGSS has been out, there should be a lot of math and writing in those science classes to support those standards. So that's a great way cross-curricularly. And I know, like, I meet with as a science teacher, we meet with the math teachers to make sure that our language is the same too. And so they see that, so I'm not sure if that's happening with, I know your science scores are good, but bridging talking about the common language between the math and science, because there's a lot of math in that as well as writing. And that's how we support the math and reading or the writing skills in our science classes, as well as using those standards and the inquiry based. And it's great because you do see, and they're like, oh, you just learned that last week, and in a science class they're talking about math, and it's great to see that. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of our teachers do that informally. A lot of our data analysis days are content areas, but there's a lot of that informally that goes on. Oh, we do that, or even when I'm walking in with the science labs, they're doing, there's a lot of crossover naturally, which is really great. But to have those more intentional conversations across grade level is important, even though we're doing it, we need to do it more. But there's, a lot of it's natural, but some of it is, to push it even further would be beneficial.
yeah, this is just great. That NGSS is great because it does support both areas.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Mr. Meyer.
It's not working.
Oh, it's done. Oh, I'll get yours.
Jack, where are we going?
Don't you worry.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I changed it up a little bit from last year, maybe the year before, because this is what you see when you actually look at the Illinois report card. So if parents see, they just see this, instead of some bars and graphs or some numbers that we had last time. I don't know if this is right, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but I think if people see what's on the Illinois report card, I guess here they can relate it to when they look at it themselves, if that makes any sense. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. This is what I did, so here we are. So looking at 18, 19 before COVID, you look at 33%, we're looking at ELA, 42, okay, COVID hit 35, down to 27, 37 again this year. I've talked about this is our seniors now, I've talked about this class as being pretty sound in terms of academics. Again, 37%. As everybody said, it's not wonderful, but we are above the state average, which I'll show later. But one of the things I'll show you later is this is a different class each year. So there's, okay, some years are going to be great, some years are going to be terrible, some years are going to be great or mediocre. But this is kind of the big picture, what people see from each individual class at Beecher. So we're at 37%. Again, pretty decent for where we've been. Now you look at our math scores. Again, 24, 21 before COVID, 18, 13 bad, not ideal last year, up to 17 this year. Again, not saying that we're wonderful, but I also talked about this year with our AP scores from our senior class now. So we're at 4.8% exceeds. We've never had that. Again, we've got some high performers on our math team. We've got some high performers in this senior class, and that has affected, I think, our overall meets and exceeds. Again, it's a little bit better. Again, we know we're not ideal, but at least, again, moving in the right direction with this particular class. Math scores, and I appreciate what you said about science and next generation. I know our scores are pretty good, but maybe we're not all aligned with the terminology and all those things, but I'm pretty pleased with our production there. That's fantastic. Again, not to say next year we won't be at 40, I don't know, but at 73%, that's very, very good in terms of our surrounding areas. I'm at only 5% emerging, compared to 2 years ago, it was 31. So again, pleased with where we are. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm trying to do with showing our classes, where they came from and where we project them or where they're going. So now this is our 12th grade. So last year, they only gave us 2 years of data working with the website. I want to thank this man back here, and I know he hates it, but he really helped me with all this. So Mr. Duncan, I appreciate all your help with this. But looking at the fall scores, this is a senior class, the fall scores, 460 in English writing, English response writing, which is ELA, at 460. But then when they took the actual SAT test in the spring, we went to 480. So we're moving up. 480 in math, we went to 520. So again, nice trajectory, nice trending. Again, we got better. Okay, so again, just showing our data from when they took initial tests. Are we improving? Are we getting better? That's the goal. Okay, so now this is our 11th graders. We got 3 years of data from them. So they're 8, 9, 460 in English. 470 last year, great. This fall, 452. Okay, well. Math, 410 as 8, 9. 430, again, moving up. Now this fall, 422. Again, it's a test. It's to kind of see where we are. Again, with all this, is there a motivation? Is there a hunger? Is there a pride? Is there any of those things? Do we just not care? Some people do, some people don't. We're not going to get everybody. But I like the 460 to 470, down to 452, I don't like that. But 410 to 430, they get 422. Maybe we didn't try real hard. But our goal is to then hopefully this spring with our SAT test, that we're going to try, that we're going to get back up there. But again, we're growing, and then maybe this fall, maybe we didn't try. I don't know. Our scores aren't where they need to be. We're trending in the wrong direction. But this is kind of what I would like to show you. I would like to show our staff how we are moving compared to just that one test score. So that's kind of what I'm trying there. Now, big picture from the earlier 2 slides. The state math is 27, we're at 17. Okay, not very good, but better than last year. ELA is 32, we're at 37. Science is 52, we're at 73. Again, just showing you some other schools, why I put Central and Moments on there. They're the 2 biggest schools in our conference. Central is 2nd, Moments is 3rd in terms of our size of the conference. Crete-Monique is just a local school. Moments and Mantino and Piatone, we play them in everything. We compete in math contest, whatever it is. Scholastic, some of those, they're all right around our area in terms of geographically. But our scores this year, pretty decent compared to everybody else. I can't say that every year. Again, not ideal, but better in certain places. Again, can we always get better? Absolutely. Like I said, we're not always in this area. We're besides Central, we're 2nd in line. I can't always say that. So again, the senior class has chosen to try, not all of them, but a big enough group chose to try. They were taught well. They took pride in their work. They took pride in, whatever we're asking them to do. And it shows. Edgenuity. Steve calls us, Mr. Sarseny calls us a game changer for us. In terms of, I've got another slide, but I'm going to read it and I'm going to skip it over. I'm going to skip over it next time. Or the next slide, I'll just talk to you about it. In terms of, especially last year, the 2020s down at the bottom, no, we didn't have too many kids using it, not too many courses, but we did get a bunch of nice credits that summer of 2020 at 30 credits. Then we go to 5 kids, then we go to 9, 21, 22, we had 19 kids, last year we had 15 kids. But because COVID hit some of them hard, they chose to do absolutely nothing. So, is there a way that we are going to benefit them? Yes, but they got to do the work. Mr. Gaham will probably show you our graduation rate, 86%. That's not good. 86%. But it's not a rubber stamp when you come to Beach High School. You're not just going to pass just because we failed 2 kids last year. Not ideal, not what we want. But did they finish during the summer on Edgenuity and get their diploma? Yes, they did. But it wasn't before July 1st. So again, it counts against us, but I know it's the 9th grade group, but I'm telling you, from Steve's standpoint, from my standpoint, some of these kids either didn't do it or it wouldn't fit in their schedule. or they failed and then they wanted to do KACC and it didn't work in the afternoon, and so we're working with kids. But we do have an avenue for juniors and seniors. We're not doing freshmen and sophomores anymore. If they fail, well, they're gonna have to figure it out. They're gonna have a couple years to figure it out, maybe take some classes with some sophomore or some freshmen and whatever it is, until they become juniors and seniors. Then again, then we're more than welcome to work with them, but you're not gonna fail something your freshman year and be online and do it. That's not how it's gonna work. So, but Steve, this has really helped. Because I'm telling you, if we didn't do this last year, if we didn't have Edgenuity, we'd had a lot more than 2 people not pass. I guarantee you that. And speaking of this year, right now we've got at least 10 kids that have 10 seniors that have Edgenuity classes that they need to finish, to graduate. And some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, most of them are on track to get their stuff done. So all this says is Sarsiny's doing all that stuff that I just told you. Last one, what we're trying. And Jack started this before I got here with the math department. We just had to clean it up a little bit this year because Miss Payne left, and so now we have Miss Munson, and thank you for that hire. She's been fantastic. Kids love her. She likes our environment, so I'm pleased with that. But Miss Chauvin is now teaching freshman team along with Miss Munson. But then she also has her seniors. McCord now is doing all algebra and still doing statistics. Miss Munson is doing geometry, and then has the freshman honors algebra and freshman team. But this dynamic, I mean, I know those numbers were last year, we'll find out, but she seems to like it here, kids seem to like it. I think she's a great fit, and hopefully she will help our scores continue to get better. In terms of English department, same type of thing, that's been the same thing for 2 years, but Mrs. Lucia was gone, paternity, wow, was gone for maternity leave. So we had Miss Hewitt early first semester. She does a fantastic job, and she had what Mrs. Lucia had. So I guarantee you now Miss Lucia has been back. They will be prepared. She takes pride in her job. She takes pride in her work. So I will not say the juniors, again, don't have a whole lot of time, but the juniors will be prepared. She will get them prepared. So I'm comfortable with that, and that's one of the reasons why we moved her to the junior class. Continued vertical alignment, and I'll say something at the end about that. Dedicated PSAT and SAT instructions in the curriculum. She's got it. She's working on it. She's giving it to Miss Hewitt, and then she's working on it herself. That's taking care of many units. Again, she's got that. I'm comfortable with where that is because it's one person with the 11th grade. And that was the goal of the restructuring. Now math, we've done some different things. They came up with this idea, so now we've got strategic problems, 10 problems a week as bell ringers or homework about different parts of the SAT or PSAT test. Obviously, the seniors are the only ones that aren't going to have these types of problems. Because not that we don't care, but they're not testing in terms of PSAT 9, 10, and SAT. They're working on their own stuff, statistics or AP Calc, etc. So with those 10 problems, hopefully, by the time we get to that test, April 18th, we push that to almost the last week possible because we want as much study time, prep time as we can. Another way that we could make our test scores better, which I know Dr. Gaham did not say, is teach to the test. That's not my goal either. I don't want to just teach to this particular test. These kids need to be well-rounded in a lot of different areas, and that's why I hope we never get rid of social studies and science. I'm a social studies teacher. I know not a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's important in life. But whatever, sorry. So hopefully our goal by the end, or before the test is, they do cover 2 practice tests as a 9th grade class, as a 10th grade class, and as 11th grade class in terms of the College Board practice tests or the practice tests they are developing based on the standards of the SAT. Prior to, we also want to take a full math test on the computers, make sure we know what we're doing, we can fiddle with certain things, we know where the calculator is, we know how to manipulate, because that's part of the problem which has been stated. Kids have a difficulty manipulating the computers instead of having a pen and pencil and paper, sorry. The one thing that I can say off subject real quick is AP right now is still on paper. We're going to continue to do paper with AP tests because we like paper better than we do the computers. Kids like paper. Staff likes paper tests better. Kids just do better on them. So, there are math tests, College Board, Albert IO's ELA, they really like that stuff, and Dr. Gaham has already said, you know, again, it's one day. One day for us, it's not one day for them, but the test-wise, in terms of the 11th grade SAT, the NMSQT in the fall, the ISA, all those things. We are a team, and what I believe, again, it starts with, at the bottom, you know, hopefully that they're building these skills, but these kids gotta try, and we have to care. So, hopefully. That's all. Any questions?
So with your vertical alignment, you guys they do get time to meet with?
We do, especially at the end of the year. We used to do one March. Was it the March? Didn't we do one the second semester? I thought our full day. I know one of the times we do, but it's only a couple times a year do we ever. We mostly go with the junior high. Again, not that 6th grade isn't vitally important, but we most work with the junior high. But I just
split up our staff to do half junior, half high school, and half adult.
and then just us getting together, and we need that. They need that. They appreciate that. But it is nice to see where we're lagging and where they get to. And we also talk about like our freshman math. Hey, where did you get, Miss Fan? You know, or where did you get? What didn't you cover? What do we need to figure out the first couple of weeks to kind of get us ready to roll? And yeah, and I get it. I get some of my teachers like, well, you asked for, you know, so many summative assignments first quarter. We asked for 3 or so. Well, we're still reviewing off what they didn't get finished last. I get that. I understand. I mean, there's lots over the summer. I understand those things. But it's still, you can still do a summative assignment, but with review. So, but yes, I would say at least twice a year do we do vertical line.
Yeah, being a unit district, that's like, I feel like that's awesome. Like I said, not being a unit district, it's very hard for us to meet with our junior highs and things like that, which we do. We do try to do it a couple times a year, so you guys are, you know, having a unit district. I think that's a benefit to hopefully bridge it all together and utilize each other, you know, as much as you can. Yeah, it's awesome.
I would agree. And utilize it properly in time and all that. Yes. Yep. But what we do based on them, and we appreciate their staff, we appreciate what they do, and I just want to make sure that we all do that.
Mr. Marr, are you good up right there? Still good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Apologize, buddy.
I'm excited.
Are you excited? Well, you have one more presentation to sit through, it's mine, and it's hands down the most boring because I have the least personality out of the four.
I'm sure they do.
All right, Justin Fields. Right here, Justin Fields.
Oh, hold on. Oh, option, I'm left-handed. Option. There we go.
That was a Nick Mullins throw.
Hey, well, you know, that's why they're 7 to 10.
Yeah. All right, so I'm actually going to cover 3 things outside of the report card, just to make sure everybody knows. The first one is we had 0 for FOIAs. We had no FOIAs this past month, which can't say has happened in quite some time. Normally we get at least 1 commercial one at some point in time. So we had no FOIAs this last time around. I made an error. I will admit it to the public. I am not perfect. Trust me. Ask my wife. I am not perfect. I misunderstood a very lengthy email that the board's attorney sent. So I first of all will apologize to the board, and I will apologize to the community. I was not trying to lie to you or fib to you. Under the ALA, which is the Press Plus 615, I made the statement that if you accept the ALA, there was not a way for the book to be removed. That was an error on my part. You still have Press 260, which is still your objection form, and that still does apply. So that still does allow the board to make a judgment on a book that is in right now. So I apologize. I said that that form would be removed. When I reread it, and it was pointed out, Ms. Hanson brought it to my attention, and I reread it and I contacted, I was incorrect with how I interpreted it. That form still exists. So because of my error, I did not feel comfortable making the second reading tonight. I didn't want to put that on your guys' plates, so it allows you to go back here to the community in case that has some kind of bearing on what could happen with your vote. So I apologize. I am human, maybe. So that's the second thing. The third one I'll get to after the report card. It's regarding the weather and my decision making. And my old man walked up the hill both ways in 6 feet of snow. We went to school every day. And we get 1 inch of snow, and I get so many phone calls. But we'll get to that. All right. Per your policy 615, the superintendent has to give you guys the report card every single year. That is the actual state statute that has the requirement, and this is where you'll find the actual report card. If you are at home right now and you're following along and said, man, I really wish I could see that school report card. Hey, Dr. Game, where's it going to be at? If you go to the website, you click on School Board Resources, it says it right there, the Beecher, Illinois report card. You click on that button and it says the district, elementary, junior high, and high school. Everything I'm pulling off of here is district level. It is 100% public viewing. Nothing I am coming up with is hidden. So it's all there for you. All 3 buildings are once again commendable. So congratulations to our principals, once again making all buildings commendable. Yeah, I spelled it right. I think I did. As Mr. Meyer said, our graduation rate this last year was 86%. Now again, that accounts for students, so when it's called CIS, their junior or their freshman year that's submitted to the state, these are the arbitrarily 100 kids that are in Beecher 9th grade. And then in 4 years, we send them a report saying these are the kids that graduated. So during that 4 years, 86% of those kids officially graduated. 75% of our kids with IEPs graduated. Now, that's 4 years. I'm not sure if you guys know this. If you're a student, you actually can go to school with an IEP up to the age of 22. That student is still a freshman, and at the age of 21 may graduate or may get a diploma of some sort, and they will account against your graduation rate. So just because it says 86%, please don't think that we had 100 kids graduating and 14 failed. That's not how that works. Okay, there are kids who are off-site that were in with us on our freshman reporting. There are kids who were part of our freshman reporting and went homeschooled and didn't officially get a new school where they didn't get a diploma. So please don't think this is 100% related to our kids in our building all 4 years. If you expand it out, the 5-year graduation rate's 93%, 90.5% with IEPs, and then 94 and 87. So you can see as you kind of expand it out a little bit, it actually gets a little bit better because those numbers, you can go up to 22 years of age. Our advanced gifted student reporting, oh, by the way, this is the state statute that's underneath that requires us to do this. 24% of our 8th graders are in Algebra 1 right now. Our AP courses, we have 10 students in biology, 9 in calculus, 12 in AP Lang, 11 in literature, 14 in physics, and 14 in U.S. history. We don't offer any other AP courses at this time. We have 16 students who are enrolled in dual credit college courses through Prairie State College. These are all numbers from last year, by the way, not this current year. And then we had 52 students enrolled in some kind of CTE programming, primarily KACC. So those are all the different reporting items we have. Discipline, we are required to state the number of suspensions of violence without physical injury and with physical injury. We had 7 students who were suspended at some point in time as a result of violence, i.e. fighting. We had 0 with actual injury. We had 0 expulsions, and we have 0 alternate placements. And as far as I know, the last at least 5 years, we've not had any expulsion. I know we haven't had any expulsions. And alternative placements, we have not had any of those as well, as far as I'm aware of. At least as the principal, we didn't do it. So, they're shaking their head no, so that means I'm right. So those are all the pieces of the report card that we're required to report on. If you want to dive deeper into it, again, you can find it on the website. It's exhilarating read, I promise you. The other thing that we do, and if you're a teacher in Illinois schools, you know that there's the school climate survey. This is also on the website. This is also part of the report card, though this is not required to be reporting. This is a separate policy, a different school code, but I still want you guys to have the information. So at the elementary school, that is where the 5, now if you actually dive into the the survey, it actually tells you what each rating is. So Ms. Black has that report, and what she's able to do is kind of dive into, okay, collaborative teachers seems to be the low area for our school. What can we do as a school to change that dynamic from last year? And so then, you know, she took that, and we've done a lot of things this year to kind of change that motif. She talked about the IAR, sending staff there to do the reporting and coming back, things like that.
And who takes this? Who
So this
fills out
is,
this?
so all
Yeah, I
of our
know, but everyone may not.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, I think we ended up with like 99% of our students take it. Our parents, if you ever see that we always send it home, like, hey,
Well,
please fill out the
90%
survey.
Fifth grade. Elementary is only fifth grade, right?
Fourth and fifth.
Fourth and fifth,
okay.
yep. Parents will send it home, we'll put it on the website. We normally get around 20% of our families fill it out. And then staff, we normally get around, why do I always get looks on it? I'm being,
We never get 20%.
Maybe altogether, you need 20 from
You
the
need
Yeah.
20 to
Yeah.
get the report, we never get that many.
So-
No matter how many times we send it out, no matter
Yep.
how we do it.
we've even set it up during parent-teacher conferences. So, but we get that data, and then teachers, we have 100% of our teachers take it. So those are our three entities that take it. And then they kind of combine all the data. The junior high,
I know the lunch man.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
No, we were saying we don't remember getting an email sent home
Oh,
about.
Seeing any of it, yeah.
okay.
You do. It's got a link.
Yep.
Well, you'll see it again this year, I promise.
It gets sent like 5 times probably.
Yeah, you get a
Yeah, and I know Joe puts it on the main page. I think we'll get better. That's all we can ask for, right? A little bit better this year than last year. Here's our junior high. Family involvement is the one thing that this related to us. So Dr. Kwasny over the year is going to be kind of looking at how she can address those kind of things. And then Mr. Meyer at the high school, ambitious instruction is where their weak point is. So again, that staff meetings, things like that, looking at how they can address those things. So those are all of your client surveys. If you're looking for a paper copy, folks, at home, you can call our phone number at 708-946-2266. Our extension is 1400, and you can get a paper copy of the week at a glance. It's about 200 pages. But it's on the website, so 100%. All right, there you go. Lastly, and I really got to stop with the goofiness sometimes. In terms of weather, I get it. It's going to snow. You live in the Midwest, folks. I don't mean to be rude. You live in the Midwest. It's going to snow at some point in time when you live in the Midwest. Tonight, there's going to be snow that comes through the area, 1 to 3 inches. It's probably starting right now. I can't see outside, but I'm guessing it's probably falling right now. I know Mr. Smith at the township and I know Mr. Connor at the village are going to have plows out. From now until when it potentially stops at 6 a.m., they'll have plows out for that 1 to 3 inches of snow. We're not talking 30 inches. It's 1 to 3 inches. We are not going to call snow a snow day because of 1 to 3 inches. It's not that I 100% want kids to be safe. I want kids to get to school safe. I want everybody to be safe. It's not rational to call a snow day on 1 to 3 inches of snow, especially if it's going to stop at 6 o'clock. Then it will rain. It will never it shouldn't freeze because it's going to be 34 degrees. It snows up top, I get it, okay? But it's not going to freeze. The rain that does fall will basically melt most of what does exist, and then it'll start snowing again tomorrow night at 6 p.m., go till midnight, and then stop again. I have faith that our township and our village will make sure the roads continue to be clear. I know there's already schools who are calling remote days. I'm not calling a remote day when kids don't have items at home. Most of them didn't take their iPads and Chromebooks home. They didn't. So either I call no school tomorrow, which ain't gonna happen, or 6 o'clock rolls around, our buses are safe, our high school students drive safe, we get them here and we educate them. That is the decision I'm going to make. I'll do everything I can to always make sure families are informed beforehand, but I'm sorry. It's very frustrating when 1 inch of snow is potential and it's just, oh, we're going to have a snow day. No, we're not going to have a snow day on 1 inch of snow. We don't live in Texas. We live in the Midwest, up north. So, okay? Anything else for me? That's all of my pieces. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, so next we'll go around to committee updates real quick. Beecher Youth Commission, do we have anything?
We have our MLK Bowling Day, that's next Monday when the kids are out from 10 to 12. Today was the last day for registration. I'm not sure if it's still open at this point, but I do know they were working on Teams and getting that information out today. Our next meeting is tomorrow night at the Village Hall, 7:30. If anybody's interested, please come out and see what we do. That's all I have.
Okay, PTO?
So their meeting isn't until Wednesday, but Kristen sent me a message. Free Family Bingo Night is coming in March. They use some funds to purchase most grade levels crafts that the students use to make Christmas gifts. And Raise Craze is coming back for the week before and after spring break.
And do you know what their goal is with this?
I do not.
No,
I know
okay.
last
They'll probably
year
talk about it.
25,000, I think. Whatever it is, we always blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think they got the preschool equipment, right, with the last fundraiser?
Yeah, I think so.
That was the goal, is the preschool equipment, right?
That was it.
Okay, Booster Club.
We have not met, we're meeting next weekend, but they're still looking for any businesses and anyone who wants to advertise those banners you see in the gym. They want to put them out in the baseball and softball fields too, because you have soccer, baseball, and softball all in that little corner to raise more money. So at some point, we can start using it. But then just me personally, I want to speak for the club, but I just wanted to give a thank you to Mr. Schwarzentraub, because I know that he does it on his own. He does all that digital media and all of the sports, the math team, the plays, and he's always doing, they're hysterical, they're creative. It is nice to be able to catch like the junior high game while we're at a high school game and get updates, and then just all the different preseason videos, the interviews, whatever he does, Beecher Bobcats and all that. It's really appreciated by, I know, a lot of the families, and just a lot of people love what he does, so I didn't want him to go unnoticed, since he does a fantastic job doing it and giving of his time.
Guessing the scholarship committee hasn't met, I only
Next
need a
week.
couple. Okay.
Yeah, we'll meet next week.
And no, nothing
Nothing
from
for, what is it, Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber.
Yep. The Carbs has not met again since the update for last, and then the Beecher Education Foundation has an upcoming event, I know.
Yes, they do. Saturday, the 28th, at the doors open at 5:30. It is $85 a ticket. It is the fundraiser and silent auction. This year's theme is a taste of Texas. So if anyone is interested in that event, it is they can purchase tickets online or from a foundation member. Oh, I'm sorry, Saturday the
24th.
24th. Okay, I apologize. I just wrote it down, so.
It's going to be at Flossmoor.
And Ravenslow.
All right, old business. Are we talking about our first, the certificate resolutions, or just going for the motion? Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
So I'd like to introduce, this is Mr. Steve Marr. He is from Stifle. You guys met Nate the first time around. So Steve has actually been our point of contact with Stifle. He's the one that's provided all the actual numbers that you've gotten. He offered to come down here. I said, it's great if you want to come down here. If there's any questions you guys have about the resolution, timeline, anything like that, Steve is here to absolutely answer any of your guys' questions before you make any kind of motion to move forward with it. But it's everything that you guys have talked about through finance and through other board meetings. He's got all that information. It's earmarked $300,000. We're looking at 10 years, 2.2. He has it in there that it's the HVAC project. You would able to not backdate it, but acknowledge the $500,000 that we've already spent on the project will come out of this fund to help cover that 85% requirement within the first 16 months, 18 months. 18 months. But we'll definitely pay, we'll use a lot more of that. I think our plan is to have everything used and spent by the end of the summer. So we won't even have to worry about the 85% requirement within 18 months. Am I missing anything, Mr. Marr?
I just want to relay that this is a parameters resolution. It's setting forth the parameters for which the financing can take place. So there'll be a later point in time when we'll need signatures from Dr. Gahan and Ms. Ashley. But this is just setting forth the parameters to move forward. The board at a later point in time could say, you know what, we're going to pump the brakes and not do the financing at this point in time. This resolution is not obligating you to do the financing, it's just giving you the ability to do so. And we'll start our schedule and moving forward here in the next couple of weeks and months if you do pass the resolution tonight.
And it's still on track to where the percentages we'll make keeping the money are more than what we'll pay.
Again, I can't control interest rates, but as of right now,
it's still, that's on par.
Mr. Peter and I will continue to watch that. And I think our Midland was at 5.25 last we checked, and then that CD, like I said, is 5.35. And I'm hoping that any rate we get for selling these bonds will be close to what the 5% that we were saying. So
when Nate was here last, a few months ago, we were assuming an interest rate on the bonds of a little over 5%.
Yep.
Interest rates have come down since late October, early November. I don't know what interest rates will be like in a couple of months when we lock in rates on these bonds, but there's some sense in which the Federal Reserve has probably topped out and interest rates will sort of stay flat or potentially, fingers crossed, decline throughout this year. But we're assuming the last number I ran, we're at 5%, so it's a little bit lower than we had in November. I expect this transaction, if we price it in the next couple of months, will get down around 4.5. But I want to be conservative, and I think that's what we've done here in this parameters resolution.
Okay.
And just a reminder, again, I know we said it before, this is not an additional levy, this is not an increase to anybody's taxes. This is basically making a promissory notice of $300,000 that will always be earmarked for this death certificate. It is nothing to do with taxpayers, other than the fact they're obviously paying their taxes. But this is not an increase in levy, this is not an additional levy, this is nothing more than you guys have a set of money, and every year you're making a promise that that $300,000 will be used to spend on paying off this certificate for 10 years.
Any questions or anything? All right, I need a motion to approve the debt certificate resolution authorizing and providing for the issue of not to exceed $2.2 million in debt certificates for the purpose of altering, repairing, and equipping facilities of the district, including heating, ventilation, and air conditioning improvements, and authorizing the sale of said certificates to the purchaser thereof.
And if there is any excess, is that included in the?
When you say excess,
Well, the 2.2 million is strictly for the heating and air conditioning.
So it's for any kind of improvements that we want to make. Correct. So the 1.8, 1.87 is HVAC. Then you have the elementary roof, which is another. We're projecting about 160 to 165. Leave you about $100,000 to $120,000 left after that, and where you can do. I know Ms. Hanson's mentioned some lighting concerns that we have in terms of facilities outside. It still gives you a little bit, or if God forbid.
So it's basically for capital improvements, not just heating and air conditioning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
And if at a later point in time, in 2 weeks, in 2 months, we say we don't want to borrow 2.2, we want to borrow 2.1 because those lighting needs are don't exist anymore, or whatever, that can be adjusted. The 2.2 figure is a not to exceed, it's a maximum, but we can go below that.
I'm sorry, and at the last one we had, our board meeting, I think we talked about was it the CD to help all?
Yep. That's it, we'll make more money keeping it than doing this. Because before we talk about, well, we kind of have it in there, should we spend it?
Right.
But it'll cost us more to do that.
Right, okay.
The two interest rates that we're working with right now, like I said, Mr. Peters, Midland is 5.25, and the CD that we have is 5.3. 5.35. So we are currently earning more money on the investments we have now than it would be to take this out of pocket.
So
Second.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Flickling.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next up is the SRO contract. If anyone has any questions or anything?
So, did we meet? Did anybody meet with the village?
Yes.
And- Okay,
Larry, me, and
Okay.
Dr. Gahan.
all right.
And the chief was very supportive and believes
And
it's a good program. And that he has the right officer in place.
So we just need to.
We're hoping it, because, and Dr. Gahan spoke about how this past month has been so much better, and we're hoping maybe it was just more of a communication error and kind of confusion on what duties we expected and they expected. And hopefully we're on the same page. This year goes great and we can talk about approving it or extending it for longer. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the 1-year SRO contract extension as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Hanson.
Abstain.
Herman.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Flickling.
Yes.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Just for reference, I know you know this, but I have to say it. The village is voting on it tonight. It is an intergovernmental agreement, so if they say no, it's a moot point. They're not gonna say no, but we'll make sure we're only 50% of it.
We don't have any reason for executive session unless somebody would like to request it. No? Okay. So moving on to new business. I need a motion to approve the 2023-2024 seniority list as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Herman.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Flickling.
Yes.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I need a motion to approve the hiring, I think it says approval, I think, hiring of the volunteer high school girls soccer coach Alyssa Dillinger as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Belt.
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Flickling.
Yes.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next is I need a motion to approve the Teamsters Local 777 contract as submitted. That was what was completed by the negotiations committee over the summer. They finally got back to us with approving it.
So moved.
Second.
Flores.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Flickling.
Yes.
Diachenko.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
So other discussion items, we have a personnel committee meeting that needs to happen sometime this month.
Yeah, Mr. Herman sent me a message and he said anything but the week of the 15th. So you said.
15th through the 19th.
Yep, so that week he is not available.
Do you have a time or when you're wanting to do it?
Since it's personnel, it's gonna be all executive session, so, I mean, whatever's convenient for you folks. Sounds mean, but the community is not gonna be part of that meeting. It's involving individuals. So whatever works for, I think, Mr. Herman and Ms. Belt and.
That's why I couldn't remember. I was like, I know I'm on it.
I got it, don't you worry. Oh, Ms. Diachenko.
Not next week, but anytime this week or the week after. And I can do anytime after 4, and it doesn't matter what day. Other than Fridays. I don't like the meetings on Fridays.
I can do Thursday this week.
That works for me.
The 11th?
The 11th?
Yeah. At 4?
Mr. Bauer, you have a staff meeting after school on
4:15.
Thursday in here. Are you gonna be done by 4 o'clock with that staff meeting? Thank you.
Like 4:15. I can't drive that fast.
Oh, 4:15 or
4:15
4:30.
sounds like a fantastic
I can
time.
get here for Okay, 4:15.
Oh, you talking about?
No.
Oh, no, you're right, it is BES.
Correct, thank you. I got one, I'll make it Done by 4.
Silly me thinking that Mr. Meyer had a staff meeting.
I got you.
Do we,
The 11th at 4:15.
Yep.
11th,
Okay.
Okay.
do we
I'll
have a need for any other committee meeting this month?
Not at this current time. So transportation's all up to date, facilities at this time until we get Mr. Marr's group to do what they are doing. I think we're good on them. Yeah.
Right. Do we have any items that we need to make sure we have on the agenda for the February meeting?
We will have the second reading for Press Plus for sure at that meeting. That way people will have that ability.
Okay, and then upcoming dates, we have already discussed how we have the Beecher Education Foundation dinner on February 24th.
24th.
That's a Saturday, I believe.
And then other upcoming events such as the bowling for the youth. And if anybody wants to join BYC, that meeting is tomorrow. We do have our plaque.
Yes, you do. So if you remember, you guys, as a board, received recognition from the IASB for your recognition of school board governance. So this says, dear members of the Board of Education, congratulations, your Board of Education is one of 45 to earn this Illinois Association of School Boards 2023 School Board Governance Recognition designation. This recognition is designed to acknowledge those school boards who have engaged in activities and modeled behaviors that lead to excellence in local school governance in support of quality public education. So I would be remiss not to also acknowledge, because this is kind of spans both U7 and our previous board, so I want to make sure that Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Pappas, Mrs. Paulmeyer, and Mr. Mazurik are also recognized as part of this recognition. From when you guys gave me the opportunity to become your superintendent 3 years ago, you guys have done a lot of tremendous work. You guys have managed to pass a referendum. You're now working on selling death certificates to make sure you have HVAC across the district. You've done a lot for kids in a very short amount of time, and that has been recognized by the IASB. So congratulations. So Ms. Bell, I'll present this to you.
Then you stand up.
So after the meeting today, we'll take a picture with that and
Oh,
put it on
look,
the website.
we've got little things where we can add more years, y'all.
So congratulations to you all.
And with nothing else, we're going to motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Adjourn.
Just want to have somebody to oppose.